Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. We are ready for a great one again, of course, for you guys. We've got some really, really good big topics. No surprise there either. We've got my buddy there, Clay. Clay, say hi to everyone.
Hey, everybody, back for another week. We got Elsa again, 2 in a row.
Yes, yes, and tomorrow I go to Florida again.
Right? Just so everybody knows,
Yeah.
we're a little bit out of sync because she's going to see grandbaby again. We're recording on a Monday instead of a Tuesday. So if the news seems a little off as we're talking, that's why. But
Yes, I'm glad you told him. Glad you told him that because yes. All right, right after this, we will. Hey, okay, so we are jumping right in like we did last week. We did the same thing last week because we have like five. A lot of times we do like three?
Three or
and
four.
we give them 3 or 4, and we give them like a really good chunk of time because they usually need them. But there's just so much stuff. So right off the bat, we're talking about RFK gaining momentum. How about that? That's not a surprise. It's not a surprise, right? I mean, it's no surprise at all. So we want to look at like the big implications of that. And it's pretty interesting. Maybe not surprising for a lot of people, but the Dems they're freaking out. It's kind of funny. Funny, right?
Yeah, I mean, this started a couple of months ago. You and I, kind of figured out that this was going to be an issue when President Biden refused Secret Service protection for RFK. Remember when that happened? We were like, okay, well, that's an issue there. And we've kind of kept an eye on him. He's been kind of simmering in the background and waiting for the Republican Party to shrink its field down to what we inevitably knew was going to happen, which is, President Trump as the candidate. And so here we sit, right? We've got President Biden, we've got President Trump, and we've got RFK Jr. And, he's running as an independent. And so the big news is he announced his vice presidential candidate. And, what do we know about her?
I mean, not a ton. She's a Silicon Valley philanthropist, Nicole Shanahan. She's 38 years old, very young. Yeah. And she has been, out of the political arena. This is not her lane. She's obviously, very on board with Kennedy's ideas and sentiments. I mean, they're in sync. Yeah, I mean, she's interesting. There was some big criticism of her though.
She's loaded. Her husband, her ex-husband, was one of the founders of Google.
Yes.
So in the divorce settlement, she, as we would all assume, got a ton of money.
Yes.
Now, Supreme Court ruled in, I think it was in the 70s, like 76 maybe, that your personal, and this is what President Trump did too, your personal finance as a candidate, you can spend it however you want. So there's no limitation on you spending your own money to run for office. There's no campaign rules against it. It actually falls under free speech, which I thought was amazing. That it fell under the First Amendment. But as she runs for office now, RFK, as an independent, I mean, obviously, President Trump, and we're going to talk about fundraising in a minute, but President Trump and President Biden have the coffers, the war chests of the parties to rely upon, which RFK doesn't. But what he does have is a vice presidential candidate with a crap ton of money that they now
Girls got banked. Yeah,
she already paid $4 million. She financed $4 million for his Super Bowl commercial, which obviously I think is where the attention came and what put her on his radar to potentially become his vice, and now is his vice presidential candidate.
Yep. Yeah. And they are, and the Dems are like we said, they're going bonkers. They're going batshit crazy over it. They've got super PACs, more than one, devoted to crushing third-party candidates. Let's see what else. Democratic National Committee, mobile billboards. They troll Kennedy at events, and party donors are funding legal efforts to try and keep him off the ballot. So they're pulling out all the stops. They're shaking in their shoes. And that's interesting. And he's interesting, of course, in many, many ways. But one of them is that he has, and correct me if I'm wrong, he has actually said favorable things about Trump. He's not anti-Trump. He's calling Biden the biggest threat to this country. So he's aiming his guns that way, and he's not aiming them towards Trump, which leads me to question. And now, mind you, Clay and our viewers, I'm not a political analyst. I don't know a lot of these things. So don't come for me when I ask this question. Is there a possibility that when it came down to it, that Trump could ever pick Kennedy as a running mate? Can that happen in the sphere of anything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not.
Right.
I think, there may be some rules about him declaring as an independent, running as an independent if he drops out of the race. And then, I honestly don't see him switching parties.
Right.
Because he is
Agreed.
a Democrat at heart. I mean, he is a Kennedy. He's actually one of his big criticisms of President Biden is that, his family, the famous Kennedys, right? And we're not talking about drunk Teddy, right? We're talking about, Jack and Bobby would be ashamed of what the Democratic Party has become, and especially what President Biden is doing in the White House. He's not shy about saying that. I don't, I think your point of, he's favorable, not necessarily favorable, but he doesn't slam Trump. He doesn't slander him. He doesn't go after him like the rest of the Democratic Party. But I don't see him switching parties to be a VP candidate for Trump. I don't see that happening. Yeah.
I could see where it would be desirable, though, for the people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that could appease a lot of anti-Trumpers, and could appeal. I mean, because he's got a big, what he's pulling away from Biden is, and I think you mentioned this last week, he's pulling away young Black voters, right? Young voters in general, I believe, but specifically voters of color. So that's a big threat. That's a big threat.
Yeah, and it's so when he announced Shanahan as his vice presidential candidate, like you said, the Dems went into full freak out mode, right? There were memos sent. There were because I think they weren't taking him very seriously because he just wasn't going to be able to financially survive, right? I think they were just kind of like, okay, well, we'll give him till, June at latest, and then he'll be gone because he'll shot his wad. He won't have any money. Well, now that, things have changed. So now it's a significant emotional event for them to deal with him because, and I had forgotten about this. We've talked about Ross Perot and his effect on the 92 election, right? He essentially split enough of the Republican Party to put Bill Clinton into office, right? Yes. It's arguable. Yeah. Some people will go back and revisionist history and say, no, he didn't have that much effect, blah, 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 blah. But he actually, Ross Perot was actually winning in the polls at one point in time. At that. But anyway, so we've talked about Ross Perot as a third party candidate having an effect on the election. Right. I had forgotten about this until I was reading, maybe it was Saturday. I was reading, was it Nader? I think it was Ralph Nader in 2000 was running. And he's the one who caused the recount in Florida between Bush Gore.
Oh, wow.
Right. Wow. So now you've got, and so that, of course, lost the election that lost Florida and eventually lost the Electoral College votes for Florida for Gore, which lost him the election. So now you've got, the Democratic Party is in a little bit of a freak out mode because they know that it's these states, it's the battleground states that are going to be the problem because if they're that close, the estimate is Trump's not losing his base to RFK. Right. It's Biden that's losing his base to RFK.
Yeah. And and obviously the proof in that is which one is freaking out. If there's if you need to wonder who's got the most to lose from a third party candidate, obviously it's the one who's going nuts.
And listen, I've seen numbers as high as 60% of the voting public right now doesn't want either one of them.
Wow.
right? They don't want,
Well, yeah,
they don't want
absolutely.
Biden or Trump, right? Up to
Yeah,
six. I've seen as high as 60%, right?
it's a big number.
But most of the polls I've seen are in the low 50s. It's still
Mhm.
50%, right?
That's a big
It's
chunk.
still a lot of people. So
Yeah, you
that
can't
that
disregard that.
no. So what you've got is a viable. Listen, Kennedy's never going to win.
Right,
He's never going to win. But
right.
what he is going to do is affect the election, and we've been saying that for a long time. But I think
Mhm.
with this infusion of cash that he just got with his vice president, and he was talking about some cool people as not cool, but he was talking about
I
some
know what you mean.
interesting people as
Yes.
vice president, right? Aaron Rodgers and Jesse
Mhm.
Ventura and some other folks, and all of a sudden he pulls this lady out of thin air, and of course it's
Yes.
because she's got the
She's got the
cash.
money.
Yep.
She's got the money, honey,
Yep.
right?
She's also
Yeah,
anti-vaccine, like he is.
right.
So that there are some. You said it when we kind of started. There's some
Mhm.
overlap in their views. I don't think she's necessarily hardline. I think she's probably a little further left than he is, which is a little weird. Um,
Right.
but
Yeah,
there
I
are some very strict issues or hardline issues that they're in line with.
yeah, I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but there was something about her, and maybe one of our viewers, listeners can chime in here if they know. There was something about her that was intensely off-putting, that disappointed a lot of RFK Jr. Fans, followers, supporters, whatever you want to call them. There was something about her that was a big deal, and I don't know what it was. So I will find it, or one of you will find it and put it in the comments for us. But yeah, darn, it makes me so mad when I can't remember what it is. But either way, it's very interesting. I'm just curious, do you think he's gone into this? And I know it's really impossible to get inside somebody else's mind and their mindset, but I'm just curious, do you think like he's come into this also knowing full well he's not going to win? He's
Yeah.
just going to do enough to really stir the pot and jolt everything. What do you think?
Yeah, I no third party independent candidates ever won.
Right.
In fact, no third party candidate has ever carried a state
Mm,
and won in electoral votes. So,
okay.
but he is from that family, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, and I know that this goes against everything I believe about politicians, but I think deep down inside, there is a touch of altruism in what he's trying to do. I really do believe that he thinks that it's the right thing to do for the country, that he, carrying on his family's legacy and the name and everything it stands for and has stood for in the past. I do believe that in his heart of hearts, he thinks he's doing the right thing. But I also
Yeah.
think that he knows, when the room is quiet and the lights are out and he's sitting there by himself, he knows he's not going to win. So
Right.
he's doing what he's doing what he can, like you said, to affect the election in what he thinks is the best way possible for the country,
Mm-hmm.
which is to keep Biden out of office.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, man, Biden Harris. I mean, what more can you say about everything except for that? And really, actually, the icing on the cake of those two names, that imagery is honestly, it is Biden's bad enough. But the very thought of her in that seat should be making everyone ill, just ill. And
Yeah.
and you don't hear, there's certainly factions of people who are, still riding that whole, she could be the first Black female Indian president of the United, doing all of the things. They're always going to have that crowd that is all they hyper focus on. They don't care about anything else. They certainly exist, but you don't hear them a lot. You really don't. That is not a big, loud chant that you're hearing, like you would be hearing if it were Michelle Obama, for example.
She is not the champion that they wanted. Believe me.
No, no.
That is not. She becomes the first anything in any of those realms, like that. It will be an embarrassment, and I think even the
Yeah.
people on her side will be like, "Eesh, yeah, boy, we
Yeah.
slid into that one." Yeah, I don't think
Right.
nobody wants that. I've
And
never seen or heard a single person that's like, "Man, I really hope she ends up as the
right.
president." Nobody.
And that is really, like, when you actually stop for a minute and think about that, you're talking about a party whose whole existence is on identity politics and, racial everything. Like that's their baby right there. And that they can't push this woman forward in good conscience, not that they actually have good conscience, but in any kind of conscience themselves. tells you a lot. So,
Yeah.
boy. So listen, we're talking about all these guys and how they getting their money. We know how we know how Junior's getting his money. How about the rest of them? It's very interesting.
So, I mean, we talked about this a little bit last week, but it became much more relevant. So, President Biden, instead of attending the wake and funeral of that slain police officer, decided to go to a swanky fundraiser shindig in D.C. where they pulled out all the stops. They broke out everybody but Jimmy Carter.
Yes.
I mean,
Lizzo was there.
Right. Yeah. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
They got President Clinton and President Obama, right? And President Biden. You got three presidents in the room at the same time. And and I know, like President Obama and even Clinton to this day is still the rock star of the Democratic Party. Like
100%.
People would walk past President Biden, would walk past President Obama to get to President Clinton to shake his hand, right? Even now, right? And they would certainly walk past Biden to get to Obama for the same reason. But they had all of that star power in one place, right? And they pulled $25 million in fundraising in one night, right? That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
$25 million.
That's a very big deal.
Right? And all of this stuff, the president, the incumbent, whoever it is, always has a bit of an advantage when it comes to running for re-election because their staff is their staff, right? They don't really have to pay for their staff because most of their staff is getting their White House staff. So they're already getting paid for. So that doesn't come out of their, re-election fund. So there's a little bit there. But like President Trump in this case, or anybody else who's running, who's not the incumbent, they've got to pay for travel. They got to pay for staff. They got to pay. And really the biggest thing that they've got to pay for is advertising. Advertising dollars are big. They're huge.
Right.
Like we said in the last segment, RFK Jr.'s, VP candidate Shanahan paid $4 million for him for Super Bowl commercial. $4 million. Right?
$4 million.
Advertising's where it's at. So that's where most of that 25 million is going to go. Right. And that's what they were looking for. Thank God they got Lizzo.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So let me say two things. And one of them, I'm going to ask my Christian friends to cover your ears for just a moment. And let me just say about that, that fundraising event and President Jackass going to that instead of not that they'd want him there, but the funeral for Officer Jonathan Diller. What a piece of shit. You guys can uncover your ears now. Actually cover them again. What a piece of shit. That's all I can say. And good on Trump for being there, for going. And I love that they booted that governor of New York right the hell out, said, get out of here.
Didn't even get in the door.
Couldn't even get
she got in the door.
Yep. It was a flat out, you're gone. Yes. So, that's, I know it's a little hard to tell my feelings on that subject, but
cop's wife. You've never been shy. Cop's wife. It's who you are. You shouldn't be, you shouldn't sugarcoat any of that. That is that opinion, your position is well deserved and well earned. So good for you.
Thank you. And that got me so fired up. I don't even remember what my second point was. I don't even have the slightest clue what the other thing I was going to say was.
Well, I'll say it. So they got outdone, right? President Trump this past week down in Florida, hanging out, just being President Trump, showed up at a fundraiser by him and Melania.
Yep.
Just them. Didn't bring out any other superstars. None of that stuff.
Nope.
$50.5 million. He doubled them.
How about that?
Doubled them.
Yeah. How about that?
Astonishing.
Yes. So what's their difference? I do have it. Let's see. So Biden's campaign says it entered February with 130 million cash on hand across its affiliated committees. Let's see. And the Trump campaign, Republican National Committee, and the Political Action Committee supporting him had 65 million cash on hand combined to start February. So obviously, I'm pretty sure that's not including this latest fundraising. So, So how about them apples?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Were they behind? Okay.
Right.
But and I know that President, well, first of all, the Republican Party up until just a few weeks ago was very, very divided in where the
Mhm.
donations were going. They were going to DeSantis. They were going, you know what I mean? They were going to all the different
Sure.
candidates. So you had money, split up and diversified across those candidates. Well, now we're down to one, right?
Mhm.
So now you've got a funnel
Right.
as opposed to a colander,
Yeah,
a
right.
stream with
Right.
money going in every direction.
Yeah.
So now the money's going to roll straight towards Trump through the Republican National Party
Mhm.
or National Committee, and so that the numbers will start to even out. But just the simple fact that they literally brought out every big gun they had, and he just strolled out there, the big man with the orange hair and his beautiful wife,
Put his thumbs up, did his little
dancing,
dance.
his little dance,
Love his little dance. I love it. I
and,
can't help it.
and he
Crack
doubled
me
him
up.
up. He
Yeah.
doubled him up. I mean,
Yes.
it's a record-setting, performance. Nobody's done that at a single event before. But I think, and the reason that we strung these last two topics together is these are huge indicators that the Democratic Party has fallen behind in this election. Right?
They're in trouble.
They're panicking about an independent candidate, the impact
Yes.
of an independent candidate, right? Panicking. And now they've got some fundraising issues that are staring them right in the face.
Right.
So, what do you said it, you're not a political pundit, but you're a pretty smart lady. I mean, what are you seeing in the near future? What kind of moves are they going to have to make to try and gain some ground back?
Yeah. Well, I mean, all of their fight is dirty. Everything that they do is dirty and underhanded and slimy, honestly. I mean, so you're talking about throwing what was the number of lawsuits thrown at Trump? Some absurd number.
Like yeah.
And we're talking about, I think there's some criminal ones thrown in there, but generally we're talking about civil suits. Civil suits always are about money, payouts. So here we go. Here we are with that. That's been a constant that they're trying to, bankrupt him. So he has no money. What are they freaking out with RFK, or what were they not freaking out about? Whatever. He doesn't have any money. He'll burn himself out. Oh, he's got money. Now we've got to really pull out all the stops and go crazy. So, what are they going to do next? I don't know. I really don't know, but I know it will be dirty. that I would almost guarantee to you that, they will do underhanded things. What is it going to be? I don't know. Somebody smarter than me is going to have to tell us in the comments, and maybe you've got some ideas, but that's the only thing I can come up with, because what could they do at this point? I mean, they're losing ground everywhere.
Yeah, I think they're not there yet, but they're getting very close to like the big move. Like I know that the strategy is revolved around a couple of things, and you touched on this earlier, right? Vice President Harris she's a boat anchor, right? She is part of the problem. In fact, she's a pretty significant part of the problem. The other part of the problem is President Biden's age, right? And how long are they going to ride both of those? I mean, we're talking like these are mafia concrete loafers, right? I mean, those two things alone are dragging them down. And I think, there's going to come a point, and I'm sure they have a decision point set up and they know when it's going to be, but at one point they're going to have to act on one of those two things. And the question is what? And I think they have to cut her away. They can't continue to move forward with this campaign the way it is with her as the vice presidential candidate. It's death. Like, it is the end.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that cutting her is going to fix it.
Right.
But keeping her is certainly making things worse. So they're going to have to make a major move of some kind to turn this thing around, because it's on a downward spiral.
Who at this point could they position to fit that? I mean, I think, we've already seen, I mean, we've already seen the attempts, the potential floating of Newsom, which seems to have completely just vanished, from what I can tell. Obviously, Michelle Obama, that seems to be completely out of the realm of possibilities. Who is there? Do they have anybody else as people floating around as front runners potentials?
I'd have to dig, but I would bet my guess would be they would go with youth.
Mm,
They would go
yes.
with a youthful candidate, knowing that the president is not, right?
Mhm.
So they've got to
Right.
counterbalance him. And
Yeah.
it's not gonna, I don't think like they're not gonna go with a younger younger version of Kamala Harris. Like
Right.
that's not working. So
Right.
it's probably gonna be a young male,
Mhm.
right? Would be my guess. I don't know who that would be. I'd have to do some
Right.
research, but my guess
You
is
mean
it
it
would
wouldn't be
be
AOC? I mean, she seems really perfect.
she's she's just as dumb or dumber than Harris. Like
Yeah.
she's just an idiot.
You know
Um,
what ticket I'd love to see them run? I'd love to see a AOC Fetterman ticket. I think that would be just a really fun show to watch.
listen,
How about him?
we're gonna talk about him. Actually, we can talk about him now,
We got
right?
to
I
talk
mean,
about him.
we've already hit this, the Democratic Party's in dire straits and
Yes,
Fetterman again. And listen, I was the biggest, this. I was the
I
biggest
know.
Fetterman hater when he got elected. I could not believe that happened.
Yep.
Because he was such an idiot as a lieutenant governor here in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And then the strokes and the shorts and all that crap.
Oh,
But what did he say this week?
man's
Squatters.
gone rogue again.
He's gone rogue. He's gone against the party again. Squatters have no rights,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
He said there's nobody with any common sense can believe that this is okay. And he's right.
Yeah.
He's 100% right.
He's just speaking facts. He's just
Yeah.
and like he's been doing this quite a bit lately. So this is just another round of John Fetterman saying intelligent things. Like that last
Well,
stroke must have done something good. Must have
something.
jolted something right in his brain.
Now, before we get deep into this squatters' rights, because we are going to talk about this, the one thing that I will continue to say about Fetterman is he says a lot of things out loud that people love to hear. He votes how the party tells him to vote.
Yes, yes. And you have said that in the past. And I think that is really, really important to remember because we, meaning collectively, people tend to just look at the surface, those kind of statements and go, he's okay. And, you got to look a little bit deeper. And I'm glad you pointed that out because that is an important thing to remember.
Yeah. So this thing with the squatters is it's a nationwide problem, right? This is happening everywhere, coast to coast, right? And all over the place. And really probably people are aware, but the bottom line is these are the results of a couple of things, right? Squatters are occupying houses while people are away, right? They're out of town, they're on vacation. A house is being bought or sold.
Yeah.
Right. It's on the market. Squatter moves in. You've got people who have multiple houses, right? Maybe a winter house in Florida and a summer house up north or something like that. And the squatters figure out that it's not occupied and it's not being watched, and they break in and they move in. So those are kind of the norms. But what's happening with this is in a lot of these states, they have established laws where if you can provide proof of residency, right, which squatter breaks into a house, they need power. They go to the power company. The power company doesn't care. They're not checking leases. They're not, and even if they can check a lease, they'll forge a lease anyway. But leases or property taxes or any of that stuff, and they just say, "Hey, I need somebody to come pick up my trash. Where are you at? I'm at 123 around the corner street, whatever it is." And the trash company goes, "Okay," and and they bill them, and so they get trash pickup. Well, now they've got proof that they live there, their name on a bill at that address, and now they're anchored. And so people are coming home or coming back or, going to their other house or whatever it is. And they're finding people have moved in, like whole families or multiple families or like a bunch of homeless people have moved in and taken over their home. And they have, in a lot of these cases, no legal recourse. None.
I just cannot fit my brain around how something like that could possibly happen and be allowed and for nobody to go, oops, think we got to fix this. This is a little bit of a problem. There's a little bit of a law language mistake we've made here. Let's hurry up and fix that. And obviously that's not the case, because here we are with instance after instance of these things happen. And there's a just for one of the many examples, a New York City owner of a $1.1 million house was torched by squatters.
Yeah,
And
I saw that.
did you see that? I'm like, are you kidding me? And this poor guy, and he's, I mean, it's just insane. Like, there's nothing he could do. Nothing he could do. And he said somewhere in the article, and I didn't save that part of it, but I know somewhere in the article he said, he couldn't even, he was afraid to actually go there because there was multiple people living there and squatting there. And he said, I can't, people are telling me, oh, go in there and, kick them out and, do it old school style, probably what the low key message is. And he's like, I don't know if these people have firearms. I don't know, how violent they are. Like, I can't go to my home, my $1.1 million home, and get these people the hell out of there. And they torched the place. And, now the squatters will probably get the insurance claim money, right? I mean, how about that for a kicker? Could you even be surprised if that happened?
This is third world stuff. I mean, I can tell you, I was in Baghdad 2009, right? So 6 years after the initial invasion, right? And truthfully, as the United States invaded, and then in the days following, there was a lot of wealthy people that fled Baghdad because they had the means to do so, right?
Right.
And then, of course, there are a lot of people who were displaced because of the war for a lot of reasons. Well, all those rich people that left, they left these big, beautiful houses, right? A lot of stone, a lot of marble, a lot of mirrored windows, air conditioning, all that stuff. And you know what happened? Squatters.
Of course, right.
All over the place. And truthfully, in the time frame that I was there, people started to come back. There were a lot of these wealthy people that were starting to come back because things were fairly stable. We had reached a new security agreement with the Iraqis. We were turning it back over to them. The Americans were starting to pack their stuff up and downsize and go home. So there were a lot of indicators to these people that it was okay to start coming back to Iraq. Well, they came home and their houses are occupied. They've been gone for 4, 5, 6 years. Their houses are occupied by these people, right? And they would come to the Iraqi police and say, hey, I got Iraqi police would look at them and go, what do you want me to do? Which is what our police are doing right now because they're powerless, right? Because of the legal loopholes that are established to let these people retain these residences. It's insanity that commonsensically, like you said, that people don't look at this and go, we got to fix this.
Yeah. Who in their right mind sits there and says, oh, okay, so you've been paying your mortgage. This is your home. You're on the deed, the lease, whatever the case is, your furniture, your everything, your family photos on the walls. But these people came in while you were on vacation. So now it's theirs. Like what kind of piece of garbage sat there and wrote that out? And it's not just one state or one city. Like you said, this is across the country, that this is something that people thought was okay. And, I mentioned something about old school justice, old school rules. I got to tell you.
So there's a guy who does, and I think it's California. I'm pretty sure it's California. So he's a guy who does home renovation work. So he has found a method, a technique, basically, that he's now being paid to do, where he shows up, knocks at the door. He's like, hey, I've been hired to do renovation work here. Everybody's got to leave because we're going respirators. We're tearing stuff out. Like, this place is about to end. And it's a bunch of construction guys, right? Yeah. So they roll in there like they own the place. And now you've got all these squatters. They're like, and they start knocking out drywall and they just start working, and it forces the squatters out. And as soon as they're out, they lock the door and they call the owner and go, it's clear. You're going to have to pay me, but so they do that. And so that guy's been, I think that's it. It sounds like when you read it, that's kind of what they're doing, is they're just forcing them out. Because as soon as the key is to get them to physically leave the house.
Yeah, that's the catch, obviously. And they obviously know this. So I'm assuming what they do is they always have someone in the house. So if somebody has to go to the store or, well, they're certainly not going to work. But if they have to go do whatever it is that they do, they always have somebody staying in the house. That's their in, obviously. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this guy figured out a way to shoo him out of there. And it sounds like he's essentially putting their health at risk, at least for a short period of time, to get them out of there. Good on him.
Yes.
But whatever works. Because again, nobody's getting help from the police on this. And I'm not blaming the police. This is another one of those situations where they're put in a really bad situation because the legal statute, whatever it is, it's been, established that they have a right to be there. And what are the cops supposed to do? Like you said, the old school violence thing, and that's where it gets tricky. Because listen, I'm that guy. I have no qualms about this. There would be a discussion. There would be a much louder discussion. There would be a threat, and then there would be violence. And I'm sorry, but that's my house. It's my possession. I've worked for it. I've invested in it. It's mine. And you can go out on your feet, or you can go out on a stretcher. Take your pick. I don't care.
You take your pick, buddy. Whichever one you want is fine, right? Yeah.
But then the problem becomes, truthfully, I've now put myself at legal risk. In a lot of states, maybe you've got castle doctrine, right? Where you can protect you can protect your castle. A man can protect his castle. So you've got that, but you've now walked in on them in a state where they may have legal right to be there, your castle or not. So now it's all very much up in the air, but as much as the old school inclination to physically remove them is the right answer in a lot of cases, you're also probably going to end up in jail.
Right.
As sad as that sounds, unless you've got like an old school sheriff who's like,
yeah. You need to be in like Florida.
I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah, you need to be in Florida for that to happen. Maybe Texas, I'm not sure, but yeah, you need to be in some of those states in order to get your rights back there. So like the gist of it is, you can't, as the homeowner, you can't physically get them out of your home, as we all would like to do in the ways that you described. You can trick them out. Basically, you can trick them into leaving if you can figure out a way to do that, which I'm sure they're pretty savvy themselves. So, it would take something like you said there. So that's I'm not that big of a person, Clay. I'm just not. I'm just not. I pray to God we never have to find out what I would do in that situation, because just talking about it, I feel my blood pressure going up. Like just the very idea of it, like it's getting me fighting mad.
You know why? Because you worked your ass off you and your husband to buy that house, to be in that house, like that's, you and I don't do the free thing, right? Like that's not how this works. We've earned everything that we've been given. And for somebody to just walk in and be like, that's mine now. Like, I'm throwing hands. Like, this is not, it's not going to turn out well.
Yeah, absolutely. I always think of when I have any kind of conversation along these lines, I always remember, and I don't know if you'll remember this show, or listeners or watchers, if you guys remember the show, but back in like the 80s, there was a show, whatever you guys will remember, Family Ties, Michael J. Fox, all the other actors, Justine Bateman, blah, blah, blah. And there was a scene, and I don't know why this, I guess I do know why. There was one scene in one episode that has stuck with me all these years. We're going back like 30 plus years. And it's a scene, bear with me, guys, where Michael J. Fox takes his little brother to like kindergarten, and all the kids are, the teacher has them put on like these little signs around their neck that says like, I like to share, I'm a good friend, and all of these, cute little sayings. And if you remember, Michael J. Fox's character, Alex P. Keaton, was a conservative. And and he sees all these signs and he's like, what the heck is this nonsense? And he puts a sign around his little brother's neck that says, I know what's mine. And that has been my life motto. I swear to you, I have said that so many times over the years, and in just that way, that I know what's mine. And if you want it, you're going to have to come and get it. And it's not going to be fun for you. So yeah, I always think of that. And this reminded me of that if something like that happened, it would be like, I'd be taking my earrings off and putting my hair up in that ponytail, flicking off my fake nails.
Listen, you and I, you and I, as much as we say this is about protecting who you are and your personal. We're not above, or we're not saying not to try and take care of other human beings. That's not what this is about, right?
Valid point.
I know
yes.
you. I know me. I mean, you're super Christian lady. I know that you put in your time and donate and donate time and donate money.
Mm-hmm.
It's all part of your time in the church and all that stuff. And that's not what this is about. This is about people doing the wrong thing the wrong way,
right? And getting rewarded.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's not how America works. Sorry.
No, absolutely not. And FYI, as part of that, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law Wednesday the property rights bill, which aims to help homeowners remove squatters more quickly. So
gotta love
yay,
it.
Florida. Yay, Florida.
Gotta love it.
Love it.
And on the flip side, you've got California, right?
California. Oh, my goodness. Y'all can't stay out of the news, can you? Jeez.
Yeah. So I'm convinced now that San Francisco is the future, if not current, headquarters for the U.S. Communist Party. It's everything that happens there continues to go that direction. So I caught this morning and kind of alerted Elsa to this, and she shook her head when she read it. But so the city council, right? We'll keep this basic terms, right? City council, San Francisco. One of the members is floating a bill that grocery stores, because what they're trying to avoid, and it's already happening, is they're trying to avoid these food deserts, right? In these really, really bad, not even really bad neighborhoods, just most of the city, right? So if everybody's not tracking, CVS, Walgreens, all the pharmacy companies are closing down and are pulling out of San Francisco because of the high crime rate, right? Grocery stores are starting to do the same thing. Whole Foods had a store that was open for less than a year, literally came in, set up an entire grocery store in less than a year, shut it down and back out, right?
Yeah.
And fast food places are now starting to go out of business. Oh, by the way, that $20 an hour minimum wage isn't helping things. So, right, all of this is going on. So this bill that's being floated by a member of the city council is actually a resurrected bill, or a resurrected version of a bill from 1984, right?
Right. That's right. And that got shot down. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
But do you know who the mayor was?
No.
Dianne Feinstein.
Oh, okay.
She vetoed it. Okay.
Okay.
So this is a resurrected version of that bill, which says any grocery store that is going to shut down, close in San Francisco has to, one, make it public knowledge with 6 months and give everybody notice, at least 6 months notice that they're shutting down. They also have a responsibility to help replace their own business with another. They have to. So if you're the grocery store owner and you're shutting down the grocery store, you have to put forth an effort while you're trying not to go broke.
To find a replacement.
Replace yours, to convince some other business owner to take on the mess that you are leaving. Right. You have an obligation. Right. And if you don't do those two things, and there's some stipulations in there, like if you're closing because I think there's a certain profit level. Like if you're losing money, or you lose money after so many months or so many years, you don't have to follow all these stipulations. But at the base of it is you have to give notice, and you have to try and convince somebody else to replace you. And if you don't do those two things, you can be sued by anybody in the area. Like, who in the world, even if you could, now that this bill is in place, like say I'm going out of business, right? I'm a grocery store owner, and I say, hey, Elsa, you own a chain of 17 grocery stores. How about you put one where I'm at right now?
Right. And I'm going to say, well, how come you're leaving? What's going on, friend?
That's the first thing that you're going to say. And then the second thing you're going to say is, well, if I take over for you and then crime affects me and I'm closing for the same reason you're closing, now I've got to convince some other idiot to backfill me when I couldn't even backfill you. Nobody's going to take that on. Nobody.
No. Yeah. So now they've created the next new problem, which is that you're not going to get any of these major companies, corporations to put their stores in there. So good luck. Now, which leads me to a thought and a question of, is that also a deliberate move. Now you said this whole, socialist party movement. Well, we can't get any stores to come in, so we'll take care of you in our
Exactly right.
special store. Yeah.
It's
And
exactly
there you have it. And there's the ultimate plan. Wow. Which you saw already. And I just finally caught on to, by the way. I just caught on now. You guys all just saw it happen semi-live where I caught on. Wow. Wow. I'm a little bit speechless right now, Clay, that is so, and I've used this term before, brilliantly diabolical.
yeah.
Wow.
It's about dependency,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's what this bill does very sneakily, right? It sounds like it's on behalf of the residents of San Francisco. It sounds like it's on trying to protect them from these food deserts. It sounds like
Right.
it's all trying to take care of them, when in reality, what it is about is breeding and continuing to grow dependency of government,
Yeah.
because that is who is going to replace these grocery stores.
Right.
They are going to be state or city owned grocery stores. Why?
Ooh.
Because they can lose money. The state loses. Oh, by the way, Governor Newsom's in a little bit of a pickle right now himself, because he went from like a $100 million surplus, or something like, I think it was $100 and something million surplus 3 years ago, to now the state's in a deficit in their budget in 3 years.
What?
Yeah. So, but with the state-owned stores, they can lose money and write it off.
Right.
Right. They can lose money, and it's no big deal. That store can stay open. People can steal from it all day long. All of those things, and it's not going to matter because the rest of the state of California is going to pay for it.
Yep.
So they can do that, right? Whoever it is, and you could throw out whatever chains you want, Kroger and Piggly Wiggly, and I don't even know who's out in San Francisco, but they're going to close down and they're going to leave.
Yeah.
And
there's no question about it. And they're not coming back.
No.
And nobody's going to come in.
You're going to see the establishment of state or city-owned grocery stores and pharmacies. That's what you're going to see. And here it is. Like I said, the headquarters of the Communist Party of the United States. That's what's happening right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are, reminder, these are the same people that are pushing for the banning of gas vehicles by 2035 or something.
Yep.
So they are leading the way. They're leading the way down the path of destruction for sure. And woe is anyone who stays there. If you can afford to get out of there, man, oh man, you better do it, because
pack it up and go home.
Yes.
Go wherever. I don't care. Get out of that place. It's the best thing you can do.
Anywhere but there. And I'll tell you what, and I genuinely, sincerely, even though I get so angry that people are oblivious and they choose to be oblivious and ignore all of the things that are happening, that makes me angry. But at the same time, the compassionate side of me feels sad and worried for them, because the rest of us who have our eyes open, who are paying attention, we're going to be prepared. You know what I mean? We're going to be fine, better than fine, actually. And they're really going to have an incredibly hard time down the road if we keep going on this trajectory, if things keep going this way. So, oh man.
All right, let's go a little bit global. Let's go. We've been all domestic.
Let's do it.
We've been all domestic this entire episode. Let's do a little bit of global. A little bit of global politics.
Yeah.
For those of you that didn't see this, Dr. Phil, who truthfully I'm not a fan of.
Same.
He's got that. What do they call? He's got an ick factor for me. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's like,
it's not a big ick factor. No, you nailed it. Yeah.
There's an ick feeling there. Anyway, so he had on son of one of the co-founders of Hamas on his show, right? Yusuf is his last name.
Yeah.
His dad is one of the two. Yeah. Yusuf. His dad was Sheikh Yusuf, one of the two co-founders of Hamas. Now, this guy who's in and about my age, give or take a little bit, our age, he in 1990s. Now, he grew up around all of these activists, right? All of these wannabe and fledgling terrorists. He grew up surrounded by this. And in 1997, he walked out of, whatever occupied territory he was in at the time. And he went to the Israelis and he said, hey, let me tell you what's going on over there. And oh, by the way, I'm here to work for you guys. And he played double agent for years, sat there,
Mhm.
was inside of Hamas, reported back to the Israelis. He kept them apprised of what was going on. And he got on the Dr. Phil show, and Dr. Phil invited some Palestinian supporting Americans, some
Yep.
students,
Some
and
college
this guy
students.
ate them alive. Ate them
Yeah.
alive.
It was incredible to watch. Yes, we'll throw in a clip here for you guys. Yeah, it was a no mercy, and they were I think they were like deer in headlight. They could barely even respond, right? It was, yeah, and
Yeah.
this guy is coming from, these are some pampered college students, coddled, pampered USA college students, and here's a guy who lived it. His father was, co-founder of Hamas. I mean, and he's telling him, and what did he call him? He called them useful idiots.
Yeah.
He did not, he didn't hold back. And yeah, his story alone. So let's go back for a second. Now, his story alone is so wild and so incredible. And I would, if there is a book out about that, I need to read it, because that is the stuff movies are made out of, right? I mean, if there isn't even a movie about his life, I don't even know why there wouldn't be one, because that's movie worthy, epic worthy.
Yeah, I've never heard of, I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I've never heard of active espionage against a terrorist organization like to that extent.
Yeah.
Like that, I have a hard time believing, even with all the educated people that study this for a living, that have been living, no one has personal firsthand experience and can speak with such authority more so than this guy.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
He looked at those kids and he said, you have no idea what you're supporting. And then he laid it out for them. Let me tell you what you're supporting. This is what this is. There is no solution. There is no, all they want is the destruction of Israel. There is no in between. And he laid it all out for them, and they were essentially speechless. They tried to tell him that he was repeating colonial rhetoric. And at that point, he's like, that's where I think, if I remember right, I think that's where the useful idiots statement came from.
Yes.
He's like, listen,
yeah,
you can espouse whatever you want. You have no clue what you're talking about, Yeah.
And can you imagine being that? I mean, honestly, like you said, can you imagine being that much of an idiot to actually think that you can come up with a sound, intelligent argument over somebody who has, like you said, lived firsthand, has active personal historical knowledge and experience in this, and you're just some dumb kid, who probably hasn't even left the country once ever,
Well, it's that level of arrogance, right?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, well, I read about this. I study this. I watch the news. It's that I know what's going on over there. I know that this person's lying, and Trump is this, and Biden's this, and, Netanyahu and this, and blah, blah, blah. And they don't know jack, because it's all third hand. Every bit of it's third hand. And that guy is living it, lived it for years, stood right in the middle of it, like you said. But it's that arrogance. It's that level of arrogance from those kids, which is baffling to me, that they would have the guts to say that to his face. Oh, you're just doing this. Oh, you're just saying that. No, that's not how this works. I applaud the guy for getting on there. He's one of those people, and this, right? Because we've talked about the most dangerous job in the world. That guy right there is living a life where he is looking over both shoulders 15 times between his front door and his car in the driveway.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, that he's made it this long is amazing. Really, he's
not even a mafia snitch like that.
Right.
Guy. Like a mafia snitch. Like eventually they're gonna get you. You kind of know it's coming, and you do what you can. Like that guy, if they get a hold of him, they're literally gonna tear him apart. Like, and he knows it. That is
and they're gonna
horrible life to live.
It's not going to be quick. And it's not going to be pretty. They will make it really, really bad. And obviously nobody knows that better than him. So he gets a tremendous credit and gratitude for doing what he's doing, because it's at his own expense. It really is, in every possible way. And it doesn't benefit him. None of this benefits him in any way, So
but you know what? Have you ever seen him before?
I never have. I
Right,
never have.
exactly. You've never seen him. You've never seen him on CNN. You've
Right.
never seen him on MSNBC. Most
Mhm.
of the mainstream. I'm surprised Dr. Phil had him on, but I think Dr. Phil is kind of the new Oprah, and he's got a little swag, so he can get people like that. But you're
Mhm.
never going to see that guy on ABC Nightly News,
Right.
right? You're not going to get that, um, 60 minutes interview. He's not doing that. Why?
Right.
Because he's not the message. That is not the
Mhm.
message that they want all over the television right now.
Right.
You know where he
Right.
should be? He should be sitting in the Secretary of State's office. That's where,
Mm.
as a let me tell you what's going on over there. Oh, by the way, relay
Yes.
this to your idiot president who doesn't know
Mhm.
what's going on either. Like
Right.
that's the guy that they need to be talking to.
Yeah. Well, if a couple of things happen, one, he manages to stay alive, and two, Trump gets in office, I'm sure that's where he'll be next.
Yeah,
God willing.
there's definitely some employment opportunities for that guy.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Any
Yes.
smart CIA director is like, hey, come here.
Mhm. Come
I
here.
got an office for you down the hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Craziness.
I'm so excited when we have more than our normal number of topics that we're able to get through them all. I always get a little bit nervous, like, oh my gosh, what if we have to cut something? Because they're all so great. But I'm excited to say we did it.
Did it.
I
Yep.
don't know, like, not that anybody was hoping we wouldn't. I don't know why I got childish about it.
No, it's good.
But anyhow, you guys all know what I'm going to say by now. I'm going to ask you to join us in the comments section. Talk to us. Let us know what you think about the topics. Give us your opinions. You guys have been amazing in the comments section, and we're so grateful. So we thank you for joining us and for engaging in the conversation. And we just, boy, oh boy, we just enjoy it so much, don't we, Clay?
Yeah, I swear my Thursday nights when the video drops, it looks like a national command center. Like I got multiple TVs and my laptop and my phone all going, and I'm watching it's on like 3 or 4 different platforms at the same time, trying to keep up with it all. It's pretty awesome though to get all that feedback and interaction with everybody that's listening and watching. So we super appreciate it. I know we both love it. So please keep tuning in, keep listening. And again, you can find us both on the socials. So please do.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Clay, give them the closing. My favorite closeout.
As always, for me, keep moving, keep shooting.
I love it. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.